Hello and welcome to the finale of the Sin Bin 6 podcast. I am Billy North Lewis, and joining me live from Twickenham is Joseph Terry. Joseph, how are you doing?
Doing amazing. This is some sight on the other end of the laptop here, gearing up for the Schools Cup Finals Day, which starts in just about an hour's time from the recording of this podcast. So, yeah, very, very, very exciting because it's some view. I've sent a video on the group chat already of what's on the other side. It's just, unreal. But I will say that being here does seem like some dramatic irony in terms of probably what one of the biggest stories of the Six Nations is, which is how England played here at Twickenham. But how was Super Saturday for yourself? Because I was stuck with one eye on my phone and one eye at a networking conference. So how was it for you?
Yeah. Well, first off, before we talk about Super Saturday, do you want to send out apologies that this episode is a little bit later than usual? I was drinking myself into a sorry state as a Scotland fan, while Joseph, being the absolute student he is, partying like an absolute rock star and looking at pictures of Henry Pollock's abs. So, yeah, we do apologise that this is a bit later, but we are here now. But Super Saturday, well, what perspective? A Scotland fan perspective or a neutral? Because they're two different scenarios here.
Yeah, I mean, I think from an outsider's point of view, from a non-Scots fan, I'd argue this Six Nations was the best it could have been. I don't think at any point that title hopes were even on the cards, if I'm honest with you. I think it was a stroke of fortune to get Scotland in the position where they could win in the first place. I actually think this is the kind of tournament that gives Gregor Townsend probably another year or two in the job. It's complicated by the fact that Dickens has left Newcastle, so that's wide open for next year potentially if he wanted to go. But then again, he wouldn't leave before a World Cup, would he? He wouldn't leave for the World Cup, and I don't think the Scottish Rugby Union would let him leave, to be honest with you. So I think for Scotland, this was the best it could have gone for them. And I think that even though on the day against Ireland, it was a pretty poor showing, on their day, Ireland are a better team on paper. I don't really think that's a great sort of travesty or a great shock, really, that Ireland can beat Scotland. I think that's just normal rugby playing out, to be honest with you. But you're more than welcome to be as acidic as you want to be about the performance that the Scots put in.
Yeah, I think Sione Tuipulosa's reaction to that last try just summed it up. Like, how have we done that? How have we messed up what could have been, or pretty much has been, the closest we've been to the title? Poor showing all around. I think we weren't poor throughout the entire game, but I think we weren't good enough. We could have played so much better, and I don't know why. Like, I'm not really as hacked off as I should be, but it just because overall this Six Nations was a good Six Nations for us. We started off really badly against Italy, and I thought, here we go. We suddenly then turn up against England, had a bit of a scare against the Welsh, and then out of nowhere, completely dominate the French. It was just unbelievable. And then against Ireland, all those performances we did in the last couple of weeks, all for nothing. So yeah, a bit of a poor showing all round. Ireland just were too good. They looked absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, another year, another Six Nations gone for Scotland. And as for Gregor Townsend, I think you are spot on. I think Scottish Rugby are gonna keep him. And the Nations Championship, I think, is going to be interesting now, because we've now got to look upon the future of Scotland. Like, if they can perform like that, what is it going to be like for them for the Nations Championship? But who knows? But just another Six Nations that got away.
Yeah, although was it even there to be taken in the first place, I'd argue. I don't really think it can go away if it's as much that actually it wasn't really on in the first place. I think I can certainly argue it's got away for England, it's got away for Ireland, certainly. I don't really think it went away for Scotland. It came on, but it didn't go away, if that makes sense. I think so, but
it's just I saw the opportunity was there. That was the closest Scotland were to a Six Nations title. Like you've never seen them on a Super Saturday to go in contention for the title. Hence why I think it's just one that got away, because I think we could have played so much better against Ireland. And yeah, I mean, I did say Ireland would win, but I also said that it would be doable for Scotland to get a win in Dublin. So I think, that to me is just another one. It's like 2021, we were just one try away from beating Ireland and Wales, and we could have done it. So, that would be the second time I would say a Six Nations title has just stuck away from us, unfortunately.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I'm loving this. As I'm speaking, Joseph is just admiring the view of Twickenham.
Well, I was looking up because I'd just seen there was a photographer who was right on the top of the roof, just next to the screen, basically, about like this much away from the edge. I just saw him walking by with his camera gear, thinking, "Crikey, he's high up." I will say that as someone who's not amazing with vertigo, it is quite steep. When I first went to Twickenham, I was about 8, and I was right at the top of, I think, the south stand, like basically one of the rows. I think second from top. I think I was. It was absolutely terrifying because it was just like sheer drop the entire time as you were looking down. I remember distinctly just looking down on the try line, so you could barely see any action out, but everything on the try line, it was just prime. But excuse myself. Flagellation and congratulations about turning up to Twickenham. Let's talk about the Welsh. This is the best story of this weekend, I think. I am so happy for Welsh rugby right now. I'm happy that this is a moment when the general just environment was at risk of losing people for good. I think it is at risk of losing people for good. This was what they needed. They needed a genuine boost. They needed more crowds. They needed better noise. They needed better performances on pitch. And it was just such a good performance against Italy. Italy were pretty poor. And I think we can't skate around that. But I also do sincerely think Wales that deserved that victory. It was a superb effort.
I think
it's great.
I think to justify Italy's poor performance, I think they were still quite tired from the England game, because you have to look how physical that game was. We've never seen the Italians in such a physical battle like that. And then going into the Wales game, it didn't surprise me that they would still be a bit tired from the England game. So, but no, big congratulations to Wales, though. That is a much deserved win, and it definitely puts them, as you said, it definitely puts them in the right direction and everything. So, I think this is looking good. It is looking really good. But, again, like with Scotland, we're just going to have to see how the Nations Championship goes for them, because it could be an absolute disaster, or it could be, another big boost for Wales. So this could really, really take off for them. But, what was hilarious about that win was the fact that I could see a couple of England supporters, just a bit like, oh, God, we could get the wooden spoon here because we're going to get absolutely thumped by France. Oh, no. It was just horrible.
Those people being myself, I should say, in which I was saying, oh, God, we're actually going to get the wooden spoon here, because I thought we were going to get absolutely hammered by like 60-odd. I messaged Billy, I think, after, about 20 minutes gone, and I said, if they keep scoring tries like this, we genuinely are at risk of wooden spoon, because I think by that point it was like 21-0 with 30 minutes on the clock or something like that, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, goodness.
I think I need to show everyone the hilarious photos that Joseph has also sent me of himself, because these cannot be left by themselves. These must be used for the sake of just being Sports News Blitz sort of meme collection. So there you go. We'll do something. But no, one player that actually stood out for me for Wales was Aaron Wainwright. He was brilliant, and I would probably he definitely deserved man of the match. Aside from Tommaso Melancello getting man of the match against England, that man of the match performance was so deserved. That man of the match award, was so deserved for Aaron Wainwright. Just completely dominated the game, boosted Wales to an absolute fantastic victory, and to be honest, he's actually been quite good this year in the championship. I would say he's probably one of Wales's best players this year. And with him going to Leicester, you never know. You never know. He could boost up, and when Jack Morgan returns, I think that Welsh back row is going to be looking quite scary. So yeah, again, Welsh fans, look up. This is huge. This is exciting. You have every right to be excited. And don't worry, this isn't Scotland, where your team is nothing but hype.
I also think, slightly controversial take here, that players like Devi Lake and Jack Morgan leaving, and to a point Aaron Wainwright, it will be better for Welsh rugby overall, because at the end of the day, they will be playing rugby at a higher level in a more competitive league, in more competitive teams playing a better style of rugby. And I know that sounds like heresy, because they're leaving the Welsh heartlands to go play over the bridge, primarily in the West Country, in the case of a few of their big names. But they will play better rugby for it. And you need the international game to do well for the domestic game to have enough money to be worthwhile to invest in. So
100%.
I know it sounds silly, because you're arguing, well, the top names are leaving Welsh rugby. Why would that be a good thing? Well, I'd argue that it's what you need in a crisis like this. And I think that Devi Lake will come back a better player. Don't be surprised if Rhys Carey probably gets poached by Prem Club soon as well. I think that's likely to happen.
Red Bulls. Pick up the phone.
Exactly.
Get Rhys Carey, please.
Yeah, how many of these players will leave? I think a lot of them will. So, because the moving players from other teams into other regions, it works for some if they need game time. If we're talking about a Dan Edwards, it makes sense for him to go over to Cardiff and be there starting fly half at Cardiff. Or if you're talking about, if Rhys Carey wasn't offered something in the Prem, he would stay at Scarlets. I think that's where he plays. But there are some players in that Osprey squad that will just leave, and they won't want to play for Swansea RFC in the Super Rugby Cymru Semi-Pro League, which is just a stupid idea in the first place, that they're going to move all of them down into semi-pro rugby. So I think that for Welsh rugby, it's the best scenario and best results they could have had from it. And I think that Steve Tandy understands what motivates these players, which is the most important thing. I think is that they need motivation, which was sorely missed. And I think lacking motivation, I think, was what we all said about England going into that match against France. I say we as an England fan, it is unbelievably confusing to watch England. It's really strange. I've got no idea what makes us tick, what means we'll have a good performance, what means, what can I look out for that's going to give me some confidence that we can perform against a team. I've just got no idea, because you can collapse against Italy, and let's face it, it wasn't even a particularly buoyant Italian crowd up until the end. It was a fairly standard day in Rome.
Standard day in Rome. The Stadio Olimpico was quite electric than usual. I wouldn't I wouldn't actually say standard day. Like, it was quite electric. It was probably the loudest we've ever heard the Stadio Olimpico, because the Italian fans just saw it. They saw into the future that they were going to do it against England. So
I just don't understand how, when there's basically nothing on the line, that's when you start playing good rugby, because it makes me think, well, was that performance driven by the sort of desire to not be seen as failures by the players themselves, or is fighting for a championship not enough for Sell? Because I just see so much difference in terms of how that team played against Scotland, against Italy, and then against France, a game where they had nothing to fight for apart from Le Crunch and spoiling the party for France, which isn't a good enough reason to perform. You know, I just don't. I think it was a great performance, and I'm happy to see that when the players are allowed to play free-flowing rugby and not Borthwick ball, it comes out well. I think that's the key thing that we have seen. The issue comes, when does Borthwick roll off the handbrake? Because he wasn't rolling off the handbrake at the start of the tournament when it mattered. And then he rolls off the handbrake when it doesn't matter. He plays with risk, and then we play a better game of rugby. But the problem with it is that that's only when there's nothing on the line. And when you roll into a World Cup pool, which now looks seriously quite difficult to get out of as well, and to qualify, and you're playing with the handbrake, and then suddenly you turn up in the final game when you've got nothing to play for, and then you start playing good rugby, a bit like 2015 against, was it Uruguay, after you've already lost to Wales? Funny enough, in a stadium I'm talking at right now, mad. We play good rugby. I'm still not sold. I'm still Borthwick out.
I can understand that, but you cannot deny that France-England game was probably the match of the championship. I mean, wow. I mean, yes,
I'd still argue Scotland-France. I'd still argue Scotland-France in this game.
But the drama behind it, you know, it all looked like Ireland were going to win it, and then France at the very last minute snatch it with a penalty. It was just unbelievable. And you know, I think it was just good, fun rugby to watch. And you are right. You know, there is Scotland-France, but I would give it to France v England as my match of the championship. And it was just fantastic. Yet again, though, we could hear Sean Edwards screaming as clearly the French defence did not listen to him at all during the match, after the match at Murrayfield. So they must have not understood his French and his Yorkshire French.
I saw a great post recently. It was like, have we ever heard a clip of Sean Edwards speaking Wigan French like we have with Rog speaking Irish French? We haven't seen a clip of it. We've seen the Rog l'opportunité Satan Arm clip, but we've never seen Sean Edwards speaking Wigan French, which I think is probably the next thing we need to see. Which would be just amazing. I mean, there was talk of. Sorry.
It would be great just having another sort of living with the Lions type of documentary, and just half of it being Sean Edwards getting all, you know, shouty and ragey like he was in said documentary. Even
better. I saw a photo of Sean Edwards when he was playing for Bradford Bulls about 20 years ago, and I'll send it on the group chat later on. But what it is it's the horns of the Bulls logo are just like perfectly placed on the top of his head whilst he's on the microphone. It's such a good photo because it just sums up Sean Edwards in it to a T, which is amazing.
That X-Men meme, or the Michael Fassbender just perfection. That pretty much sums it up. That is brilliant. But do you think that game was a positive for England because after a win over Wales and then just poor performance against against Scotland, Ireland, and Italy, and then turn up like that. Do you think I know you want Borthwick out, but do you think England are sort of back in the right direction now after that performance?
I'm not convinced yet. I would argue that I think one performance can be driven by great performances from individuals, and we saw that in the game. We saw that with Henry Pollock. We saw that with, I think, Ben Spencer had a good game, and we also saw that through a fair few of the props. I thought that the scrum was really good, for as much as there was all this talk about, oh, the scrum's a bit weak against France, and then or all the talk that, oh, the scrum's the only good thing, despite the fact that we all thought it was going to be terrible going into tournament with the injuries. It was okay. One performance is one performance, and the thing that is worrying me is that if we go into a Nations Championship campaign with one loss here, one loss there, and you lose the morale, when you haven't got an occasion like Stade de France on a Saturday evening, do they turn up? And I'm not convinced yet. I think this was a free hit, and Borthwick rightfully said, you know what, enjoy yourselves, play the best rugby you can, no matter the result, play the best rugby, which you can't do in a deciding fixture in the World Cup pools. You can't do that in a Calcutta Cup. You can't do that against Wales at the Millennium Stadium. They did that anyways because Wales were just that bad at the start of this campaign. I'm not convinced yet. And that's not me being a cynic or a skeptic. That's me, I think, just not seeing enough decent rugby over the last 5 games. And I think that kind of also goes back to the autumn internationals. I was never really convinced, with the exception of the New Zealand game, that England were the best team in the world. I wasn't. Also, I mean, I saw this stat yesterday, which I think is really interesting. I'm not convinced France are the best team in the world either, because
they weren't perfect this year. I would, they dominated Ireland, they dominated Wales. Italy, they really had to work for that win. They really had to work for those 5 tries, and it wasn't a perfect game. I mean, we said it before how that second half was so boring. It was just not fun at all. And then Scotland, they completely folded, and then against England, they almost folded, but thankfully, they managed to get a penalty. So, I think that this is, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't the best of France. And I completely agree. They're not the best team in the world right now. I wouldn't even say, depending on how New Zealand do this year, are France really the second best team in the world? It's no, because exactly like your reaction says it all. Like, people say they're the second best team in the world, but after this year's Six Nations, are they really? They didn't really play like they were even second best. It was just
the bigger problem is this, and this was a figure that I saw recently, is that a fair few of the key players for France have never played in the Southern Hemisphere in the Nations Championship. Thomas Ramos has never played a test match in the Southern Hemisphere. He played like a France A match, I think, against South Africa 2017. BLBRA obviously has never played in France, in Southern Hemisphere. Ati Sogbe has never played in the Southern Hemisphere. Marchand, I don't think has ever played in the Southern Hemisphere either. This is worrying because it's a different kettle of fish when you've got a hostile New Zealand or South Africa crowd on your back instead of 60,000 French fans singing La Marseillaise a cappella in the middle of the second half. This is totally different. I mean, I'm not arguing that they're a rubbish rugby team, because they're far from a rubbish rugby team, and they are probably the best team in Europe. But
they're still a very good team. but it's just overall, as I said, I just don't see them the second best team. But the rugby they play is fantastic. They play fantastic attacking rugby, of Anton Dupont at the helm. And actually, speaking of Dupont, that wasn't his best Six Nations. I have to say, he started off strong, and then, he just wasn't himself after the Scotland game, and he wasn't himself at the England game. I think England just absolutely just hounded him down. He couldn't really, I think England were just putting a bit of pressure on him. So, it's definitely going to be interesting how France do in the Nations Championship when they play down south. So, as you said, there's so many of their best players have just never ever played down south. So it is going to be interesting. And for England, I think you are absolutely spot on. I think just one game doesn't define the back. Oh, this is the best England team. They're back again. We're just gonna have to wait and see. A lot of it. This is what I love about post this year's Six Nations. With the Nations Championship coming up, it's all exciting. Teams have done this and that, and it now all depends on how they do in the Nations Championship. I am really looking forward to this tournament. Another thing I want to ask as well, Joseph, do you think that was the best Six Nations we've ever watched?
Yes, and I really think that the Six Nations is as close as it's ever been, probably since we had 6 teams in the Six Nations. And I think that we are in a good position for the Six Nations. I know there was a lot of talk at the start of this tournament about the future of the Six Nations, the financials, the playing future of the tournament, particularly with Wales being so poor. And this has proven that there is certainly life in the Six Nations, not only competitively and in a sporting sense, but financially. This is a great sell for businesses, for TV deals, for broadcasters, for everything, I think. And that is only a good thing. I think it's something that we've seen over on the Southern Hemisphere. The Rugby Championship has become a lot more interesting to watch over the last 2 years as that's become more competitive with each other. And I really think that for these kind of regional tournaments, there is life in them. And I know that sounds like a bit of a contradiction said, because earlier on I was positive about the Nations Championship. But also, I just think that it's proven, how important home advantage is, and also, and also that a game like Wales versus Italy will always have more riding on it than Wales versus Samoa, Wales versus Fiji. It's got that edge to it, which is what rugby I think desperately needs. It needs edge. It needs some bite for people to get involved, which is what the Six Nations had this year. I just sincerely hope it stays on free-to-air TV, and that's the key. That's the key thing. Just it at least keep the Six Nations on free-to-air. I think that's the key thing. And as somebody who never had paid TV or paid TV sports channels on the box at home, I watched actually more rugby of the North in rugby league, because that was on free to air TV, and then I'd watch Six Nations on the in between. So I was just gonna say, are you okay, Rishi Sunak? You've not got Sky. Oh yeah. No, but sakes. But jokes aside,
don't you worry. I've never like had Sky either. Most of the rugby I've watched. I mean, sometimes I would go and visit my grandmother to watch, say, the Lions or Newcastle on Sky. So
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
if there's anyone who would like to share, their TNT username, password, or Discovery Plus, whatever, please,
HBO
please.
Max now, because
We're
it's
watching
changed
rugby.
again, hasn't it? It's changed again. Of course, other streaming services and sports TV channels are available. That's important to state.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell you what, this has been great fun over the last 7 odd weeks. It's been this tag team will continue going forward, and that is a clue as to what we will be talking about next.
Yeah.
As a pair, I shall reveal no more than that because I want to keep kayfabe. If you get the reference, you get the reference.
Mm-hmm.
In front of my eyes, we've starting to see people filtering in for the final. Who will decide who the best team in girls' college rugby is? Hartpury or Worthing? Two giants. Worthing basically Harlequins' academy, and Hartpury obviously to the behemoth, which is Gloucester Hartpury.
That does sound quite huge, but it has been a phenomenal series. You have been a phenomenal audience. This is by far probably, I may as well say it, the best podcast in Sports News Blitz ever. I don't care what anyone else says. This is the number one podcast. Joseph, you have been a fantastic co-host with me. And yeah, this pretty much is the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for everyone tuning in. This has been, a phenomenal championship. And what a time of year to do it. And just like I said, what a championship. It has been great. We have seen, we've seen many cheers. We've seen many tears. Not much from the Welsh this time, which was a big shock. Predictions going horrendously wrong because if you remember in the first episode, I said England with a grand slam, and I have never been so wrong in all my life. But yeah, Joseph, any final words before we part ways?
Final words would be: it has been a pleasure. It's been great fun, and I look forward to the next project because it will be great fun.
Yeah, no. And if you want to see more fantastic podcasts, obviously there'll be plenty more on the Sports News Blitz YouTube channel, and you can listen to it all on Spotify. Thank you again for all tuning in, and we will see you next time.